Two people know exactly what happened to Nuck, and only one of them is losing sleep over it. Welcome to the Chi Season 8, Episode 8, and by the end of tonight, one of them might finally crack. There are only 2 episodes left after this one, and if you know anything about how this show operates, you know that's exactly when the walls start closing in. Episode 8 is called Cold-Hearted, and Paramount Plus has confirmed the setup themselves. Tiff throws herself into hosting Keisha's bachelorette party while Emmett's bachelor party spirals into something nobody expected, and somewhere in the middle of all that celebration, Bakari has to make a decision that could change everything. On paper, that sounds like a fun episode full of parties and toasts. In reality, this is the kind of setup where every smile on screen is hiding something rotten underneath, and if this show has taught us anything, it's that celebrations on the Chi are basically a countdown clock. Somebody always pays for the good time before the credits roll. Let's start with the person under the most pressure right now, and that's Bakari. This man has spent the better half of this season carrying a weight that was never his to carry. He took the blame for something Tiffany did, and instead of using the time since then to get himself out of Chicago and start over somewhere safe, he stayed. He stayed while a detective started sniffing around. He stayed while Tiffany kept getting more comfortable acting like nothing happened. And now, with Detective Tucson applying real pressure and asking real questions, Bakari is finally starting to talk about running. Not confessing. Running. There's a difference, and it matters because the moment he starts talking about leaving town is usually the moment a show like this decides to trap him right where he stands. Think about the timing. He didn't want to leave when it was just guilt eating at him. He didn't want to leave when Tiffany was the only one who knew the truth. It's only now, once law enforcement is circling, that leaving suddenly sounds like a good idea, and that kind of last-minute panic rarely works out cleanly for anybody in this world. If Bakari does try to walk away from Chicago in this episode, the real question isn't whether he wants to go. It's whether the people around him will let him. And that brings us to the real danger in Bakari's story, which isn't actually the police. It's Tiffany. Detective Tucson can ask all the questions she wants, but she can't do to Bakari what Tiffany could do if she felt cornered. Tiffany has already shown this season that she'll protect herself first and clean up whatever mess comes after. Bakari knows this. He's scared of her, and honestly, he should be. This is a man who used to move with total confidence, someone who wouldn't have let a woman half his experience put fear in him like this. Watching him shrink under Tiffany's influence has been one of the most frustrating arcs of the season, not because it's badly written, but because it's believable. Fear does that to people. It convinces smart men to make slow, careful decisions right up until the moment they make one reckless one that costs them everything. So, heading into this episode, keep an eye on how Bakari is talking. If he starts sounding calm and resigned instead of anxious and evasive, that's usually a sign a character is about to do something big, whether that's finally leaving town for good or finally saying more than he should to the wrong person. Now, let's talk about Tiffany, because her storyline this episode is dripping with a very specific kind of irony. She is spending this whole episode playing the perfect friend, throwing Keisha the bachelorette party of her dreams, being praised for how much Keisha can trust her. Sit with that for a second. The woman being celebrated as trustworthy is the same woman hiding the truth about what happened to Nuck, a truth that directly involves the man Keisha is about to marry. That's not just dramatic irony. That's a ticking clock disguised as a party favor. Every warm moment between Tiffany and Keisha in this episode is going to hit different once you remember what's buried in that backyard and who put it there. The show has been building toward this exact collision for weeks, stacking trust on top of secrets, and eventually that stack tips over. It might not happen this episode. It might not happen next episode. But it is coming, and the longer Tiffany plays the devoted friend, the worse that reveal is going to feel when it finally lands. Then there's Tiffany's other problem, and this one is less emotional and a lot more strategic. She's leaning on Victor for protection, and she's tangled up with Reg, a man who is, by definition, an enemy of the very person she's supposedly grieving. Victor can't actually protect her from consequences this big, and aligning herself with Reg is the kind of decision that reads as a mistake from a mile away. Smitty already had a problem with Bakari getting close to Reg earlier this season, so there is no version of this where Smitty finds out Tiffany is doing the same thing and just shrugs it off. Smitty and Big Mike don't strike me as the forgiving type. especially when the person being disrespected in their eyes is Nuck, someone they clearly still feel loyalty toward. If Tiffany's connection to Reg comes out during this episode, even accidentally, even as a passing comment at a party where everyone's guard is down because of good music and good champagne, that's the kind of slip that turns an entire episode upside down in the last 5 minutes. Now let's shift over to Emmett, because his bachelor party is being framed as the moment everything gets turned upside down, and that phrasing alone should make you nervous. This is a man who has genuinely tried to grow up this season. He's been working on being a better partner to Keisha, a better father, a better version of himself than the guy we met back in earlier seasons. But growth on this show is never linear, and a bachelor party is basically a pressure test designed to see if old habits are really gone or just quiet for a while. The trailer material makes it clear that whatever happens at this party is bad enough that Emmett is already thinking ahead to how he's going to explain it to Keisha, which tells you 2 things immediately. First, something happens that he knows crosses a line. Second, he's aware enough now to feel guilty about it before Keisha even finds out, which is actually a small sign of the growth being real, even if the moment itself isn't pretty. The specifics of what goes wrong matter less than what it represents. This is a man who has spent months trying to build trust with the woman he loves, and one night with the wrong crowd and the wrong decisions could undo a lot of that progress in a single evening. Whether it's something reckless, something inappropriate, or just Emmett falling back into old patterns under pressure from people around him, the fallout is going to follow him into the next episode whether he wants it to or not. But here's what makes Emmett's storyline heavier than just a party gone wrong. He has been sitting on the truth about what actually happened to Nuck, and he wants to tell Keisha. He's said as much. The problem is Victor, who has made it his mission to keep that information buried, presumably because he understands better than anyone how much destruction that truth would cause once it's out in the open. Victor isn't protecting Keisha by keeping her in the dark. He's protecting the fragile peace that everyone around her has built on top of a lie, and peace built on a lie has an expiration date. Every episode that passes without Keisha knowing the truth is another episode where the eventual reveal gets more devastating because it means more time she spent trusting people who were actively deceiving her. When Emmett finally does tell her, and it feels like it's only a matter of time now, the fallout won't just be about Nuck. It'll be about every conversation, every hug, every moment of comfort Keisha shared with Tiffany while not knowing what Tiffany did. That's the kind of betrayal that doesn't just break a friendship. It rewrites how a person remembers an entire chapter of their life. Speaking of Keisha, her entire episode is steeped in a kind of dramatic irony that's honestly hard to watch. She's having the time of her life at her own bachelorette party, and from what we know, she's specifically expressing gratitude for having someone like Tiffany in her corner, someone she feels she can fully trust. Say that out loud, and let it sit for a second. The audience knows what Keisha doesn't, and that gap between what we know and what she knows is exactly what keeps a viewer glued to the screen. It's not about waiting for something scary to happen. It's about waiting for the moment reality catches up to a woman who has no idea her closest confidant right now is the person responsible for the biggest tragedy in her circle. And let's not forget the elephant in the literal backyard. Nuck's body still hasn't been found. Every single episode that goes by without that discovery is another brick added to a wall that's eventually going to come crashing down, and when it does, it's not just going to expose Tiffany. It's going to expose how many people looked the other way, made excuses, or stayed quiet to protect themselves. Keisha finding out the truth isn't a small plot point anymore. It's the emotional center this entire back half of the season has been building toward, and the show knows it, which is exactly why they keep dangling it in front of us, without pulling the trigger yet. Now let's look at Reg, because his storyline this episode is quieter than everyone else's, but it still matters for where the season is heading. Reg has spent recent episodes trying to repair his relationship with his brothers, and that's not an easy road for him. He's already had at least one real conversation with Shad about trying to fix things, but reconciliation isn't something you get through one honest talk. Jake, in particular, isn't in a place where he's ready to let his guard down around his brother, and given everything that's happened between them, that hesitation makes sense. If Reg gets any meaningful time with Victor or Jake in this episode, don't expect a clean resolution. Expect tension that's slightly less sharp than before, small steps instead of a full reunion. Shows like this rarely let family wounds heal quickly, because slow healing keeps the door open for things to fall apart again later. And with only 2 episodes left after this one, there's still plenty of time for that door to swing the wrong way. What makes Reg's arc worth watching closely isn't just the sibling drama on its own. It's how his choices ripple outward into everyone else's storylines, especially with Tiffany leaning on him the way she has been. Family loyalty and self-preservation are about to collide for more than one character in this world, and Reg is sitting right at the intersection of both. So, where does all of this leave us heading into Cold-Hearted? 2 parties. One celebrating a wedding that's built on a secret, the other quietly falling apart under the weight of bad decisions, and both of them happening at the exact same time. That's not an accident. Splitting the episode between Keisha's bachelorette celebration and Emmett's chaotic bachelor party lets the show hold up a mirror to itself. One side shows a woman trusting the wrong person completely. The other side shows a man realizing he might not deserve the trust he's been given. Put those 2 things next to each other, and you start to see exactly why this episode carries so much weight this late in the season. There are only 2 episodes left after this one, and television doesn't waste screen time this close to the finish line. Every party favor, every toast, every laugh shared at these 2 celebrations is going to matter later, whether we notice it now or not. Let's talk about what Bakari makes a decision actually means, because that line in the official description is doing a lot of quiet work. Decisions on this show are rarely simple. He could decide to finally leave Chicago behind, cutting ties with everyone who's kept him trapped in this situation for months. He could decide to tell someone the truth, whether that's Keisha, whether that's someone closer to him, or in the worst-case scenario, whether that's Detective Tucson herself. Or he could decide to stay quiet just a little longer, convincing himself that one more week of silence is the safer play. Here's the thing about characters who keep choosing silence under pressure. Eventually, the pressure wins. It doesn't matter how careful someone is. A slip in front of the wrong person, a comment made at a party where everyone's guard is down, a moment of panic when a detective asks one question too many. That's usually how the truth actually comes out on shows like this. Not through a dramatic confession, but through exhaustion. People get tired of carrying secrets, and Bakari has been carrying his for a long time now. And that exhaustion is exactly what makes this episode dangerous for him, specifically. We know Brittany has been in his ear about what freedom is actually worth if the person he's afraid of could still end his life whenever she decides to. That's not a comforting thought to walk around with. That's the kind of fear that either pushes a man to finally act or slowly wears him down until he stops thinking clearly altogether. If Bakari does try to leave town during or after this episode, don't assume that's the end of the danger for him. People don't just get to walk away clean in this world, not when they know as much as he does, and not when the people around him have already shown they're willing to protect themselves at any cost. There's a real possibility someone connected to Nuck's old circle catches wind of what Bakari knows, or what he's planning, and if that happens, leaving town might not even be an option anymore. I want to believe he gets out. I want to believe the version of him we used to know. The one who wouldn't have let fear run his life like this, find his way back before it's too late. But this season has made a habit of punishing hesitation, and Bakari has hesitated more than almost anyone else in this cast. Meanwhile, back at the bachelorette party, Tiffany is playing a role that's getting harder to maintain the longer this season goes on. Hosting the party, comforting Keisha, being praised as the friend everyone wishes they had, every bit of that performance is one loose comment away from falling apart. And here's what makes it worse for her specifically. Parties loosen people up. Champagne loosens tongues. Emotional moments make people say more than they mean to, especially when they're trying to comfort someone they genuinely care about, even while hiding something monstrous from them. If Tiffany gives anything away this episode, even something small, even something that seems harmless in the moment, that's the kind of detail that comes back around in the final 2 episodes with devastating consequences. She's not just protecting a secret anymore. She's protecting a lie she has to keep feeding every single day to every single person in her life, and lies like that don't stay buried forever. Not on a show that's been building toward this exact reckoning since the season began. At the end of the day, every storyline in this episode is circling the same unavoidable truth. A body is still missing. A friendship is built on a lie. A man is drowning in guilt he can't outrun, and a woman is one mistake away from losing everything she's worked to protect. 2 episodes remain after this one, and shows rarely give characters this much rope without eventually watching them run out of it. Whether it's Bakari finally breaking his silence, Keisha stumbling onto a truth nobody wanted her to find, or Tiffany's carefully built world collapsing under its own weight, something in this story is about to give. The only real question left is whose life changes first, and whether any of them walk away from what's coming. That's where I'm leaving things for now, but this story is far from over, and I'll be right here breaking down every twist as it happens. If this breakdown helped you make sense of where these characters are headed, do me a favor and hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel grow. Subscribe if you want to stay locked in for the next 2 episodes, because trust me, you don't want to miss how this ends. And down in the comments, I want to hear it straight from you. Do you think Bakari finally comes clean, or does he try to disappear before the truth catches up to him? Let me know your predictions below, and I'll catch you in the next breakdown.